What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am Graham Barfield, one of the co-owners here at the greatest fantasy football site in the universe, FantasyPoints.com. Welcome back. Week 11. Time to talk through starts and sits. Really fun week. We've struggled through some buys, struggled through some quarterback injury weeks. We still have a few, but this is a really good week. Excited to talk some ball with you. Before we do, as always, make sure you check our projections first before you make any lineup decisions. Make sure you check out my article, Start Sit article. It is free on FantasyPoints.com. No reason for you not to check it out. And we are running a promo, 50% off for the rest of the season. If you haven't subscribed to FantasyPoints.com, it's 50% off. Our standard package is $30 for the rest of the year. Get you in through the playoffs. All of our paywalled content, like our projections, that'll get you in. Let's get to it. Week 11. This is the best week in a long time at quarterback, and I think this will probably end up being one of the best weeks in fantasy because of it. Just looking across, the landscape here, the top 20 among quarterbacks is as loaded as it's been, maybe since like week 1 or 2, since all the buys and the injuries. It looks pretty good. We got some guys coming back. We'll talk through that. But the top 12 this week is really strong. Obviously, you're starting Mahomes, Hurts, Jackson, Tua, Dak, Josh Allen, and even, in a tougher matchup. Jets have done really well against Josh Allen. Those 6 guys, I think, are the most starts. But then everything after that, from like 7 to 20, is actually pretty tight. There's 2 quarterbacks that stand out to me the most in that pocket from quarterback 8 to 20. And one of them is an easy one. It's Kyler Murray. He's back. Last week, obviously, we saw the pocket mobility. We saw the crazy scramble at the end of their last drive to put him in field goal range. Murray is back to his usual explosiveness. It's incredible. 11 months back from knee surgery. And the big thing to me, not just from watching the games and seeing Kyler clearly look like himself. By the way, he just missed on a touchdown to Marquise Brown. Would have made his day even better. Kyler scored like 18, 19, would have brought him to like 22 in fantasy points. The big underlying takeaway to me here is the Cardinals did not take anything off his plate. And in fact, they loaded him up. The Cardinals have been a very run-heavy team in general this season. They've had a higher run rate over expectation than pass rate over expectation in 9 straight games. But that stopped last week. They passed a little more than they ran based on expectation. That's based on down and distance. What the game script is like. Kyler was chucking it last week. For as crazy as that sounds, I don't think anybody really expected this. I think most people expected him to come out and be pretty conservative. They threw the kitchen sink at him, and their offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, he said as much. That Petzing was saying, Kyler was saying, I feel confident, feel good, and we let him have it. So I'm wheels up on Kyler, I'm wheels up on Cardinals. We'll talk about Trey McBride in a little bit. But this is such a good spot, and this is a great game. 47.5 over under, Texans, Cardinals. Texans secondary has not been as good as of late. They've obviously dealt with a ton of injuries in their safeties. They got Stingley back last week, Derek Stingley, their corner. They'll get him back, but still, last 5 games, Houston's given up nearly a 70% completion rate for 8.1 yards per attempt and 305 yards per game. Only the Chargers are giving up more than 300 yards per game among quarterbacks. And it's not exactly a murderer's row, by the way, this last 5 games. They're playing Desmond Ridder, Derek Carr, Bryce Young, Baker Mayfield. Joe Burrow obviously played last week, played well. I'm back in on Kyler. I think at worst, he's like the quarterback 8 or 9 on this slate. You can make the upside case for him. One other quarterback that's coming back from injury, luckily, especially for DJ Moore, is Justin Fields. Fields missed 5 weeks with a thumb injury. Hand injuries are notoriously tricky, obviously, for quarterbacks. Turns out you got to be able to grip the ball to throw it well. Fields is back. There's some signal here that he's back to full strength, too. He's been practicing in full this entire week. Great sign. Obviously, the Bears aren't trying to rush him back. They're still trying to figure out what plans Fields has in their future. They're trying to figure out what their quarterback situation will look like. So this is a big, 6-7 game stretch here for Justin Fields in the back half of the year. So let's just take a step back here for a second. Obviously, the offense was a nightmare for the first couple of weeks of the season. They had guys running wrong routes. Fields played really poorly. He melted down against the Bucs. All of that being said, he still averaged 20.2 fantasy points per game. In 5 starts, Fields averaged 20 points per game. Just for reference, Justin Herbert is the QB3 this year at 20.1 points per game. Most of those fantasy points came in those two games against Denver and Washington. But again, I always say it. If you're beating up on bad secondaries and bad defenses, that's a good thing. We should never hold that against you. And Fields was starting to take flight before he injured his thumb. It'll be interesting to see this week, right? Like, I think at worst, just going through rankings, at worst, Fields is like quarterback 15 on the slate. Like, I would for sure start Brock Purdy and Josh Dobbs ahead of him. I think Sam Howell's a close discussion. But for sure, Purdy and Dobbs. The Lions obviously are been a kind of a Jekyll and Hyde defense. They started out really strong and then just got absolutely blasted by Justin Herbert. I'm not expecting the Bears to go in and score 30 on the Lions. That's not what I'm saying. But, I think Fields has upside every single week he suits it up, especially since the Bears have kind of slow played this and let him get right. Detroit has only faced two mobile quarterbacks this season in Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. And Detroit has always kind of struggled against mobile quarterbacks just in the last couple of years. Schematically, they've always struggled against these guys who can create like Justin Fields. So it'll be really interesting to see if their defensive improvements have helped in their battle against Fields this week. To me, Fields is he's a boomer bust quarterback one, but man, I think if you've been stashing him on IR, there's obviously a clear top 6 to 8 this week. Yeah, Fields to me still has week winning upside. And this game, Lions games for the last 2-3 years, how many times have we said it? How many times have we targeted Detroit Lions games for points? Yeah, I love this game. Fields is back. I think you can put him back into lineups this week. All right. Running back this week is pretty straightforward. I can't believe I'm saying that. This is, again, one of the better weeks we've had in fantasy football. Really, really excited for it. I think the top 20, again, we talked about at quarterback, the top 20 is really clear. We've got obviously two really strong plays at the top. You could include Travis Etienne in this, McCaffrey, Eckler, and Etienne. Those are the clear top 3. And then after that, we've got a really strong tier. You've got Josh Jacobs and Breece Hall, both the Lions backs, DeAndre Swift. Devon Achane should be back this week. In one of his press conferences this week, Mike McDaniel was basically saying that Achane was untackleable in their practice on Monday. It seemed like that injury, as far as knee injuries go, it did not seem overly severe for Achane. They almost didn't put him on IR. It was that close. So, I think if you've been stashing Achane for the last couple of weeks, you stashed him through the bye. I don't know how you're not putting him into lineups. Raheem Mostert's dealing with an ankle and a knee injury coming out of the bye. You don't love to see that, but again, it's at worst, he's the RB17 on this slate. I think Joe Mixon and Javonte Williams, you could make maybe a little case for them over Raheem Mostert. But it's a really good week. So let's focus on one backfield that I'm definitely staying away from if you can, and that's this Browns backfield. Unfortunately, with Deshaun Watson gone for the season, the Browns are going to go to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, rookie quarterback, getting thrown into the fire. And he really struggled in his start against the Ravens earlier this year. Obviously, it's a tough spot. Baltimore is one of the better defenses in the NFL, maybe top 3 defense in the NFL. Extremely athletic. He looked not ready. Maybe he's looked better in practice. Obviously, the coaches know better. It's another tough spot. Divisional foe. Mike Tomlin is always good, getting his guys ready. Steelers are always competitive in terms of against the spread, especially this season. It's going to be a tight game. I think the Browns are obviously going to rely heavily on their run game, and that's a reason to kind of back Ford and Hunt. But in terms of touchdown expectation for Ford, the big problem for him, the Browns don't play him in the red zone, at all. Last 5 games together that Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford have played together without injuries, Hunt has 14 carries inside the 20 to Ford's 3, according to FantasyPoints data. Ford to me is kind of an empty calorie RB3 this week. And then for Hunt, you're just praying that the Browns get in the red zone and give him a few goal line plunge attempts. To me, this backfield it projects really, really poorly. And I think it would be a mistake to play some of these Browns guys over, honestly, Steelers backs. As crazy as that kind of sounds now, this Steelers backfield is trending up. Jaylen Warren is running extremely hot. I'd start Najee and Jaylen Warren both over Jerome Ford. That's probably a little bit of a contrarian take this week, just looking at some of the industry projections. I'm just trying to stay away from Browns backfield this week. I think you could make a similar case from staying away from Rams backfield, but in that instance, we've got Matthew Stafford under center. We've got a game that's got a high total. Seahawks Rams is around like 45.5, 46 total. That game could have some points. I think you could probably do worse than Rams backs. I'd play Rams backs over Kareem Hunt. Probably not over Jerome Ford. Ford to me is like, back end RB2 ranked around like RB24, RB25 this week. And Hunt, I think to me, you just take him out of lineups. Again, running back, pretty straightforward this week. I think I've said it, maybe 4 or 5 times in a row. You're most likely playing receivers over running backs in your flex spot. This week, I feel kind of the opposite. I think running back is just a little stronger than receiver. So let's talk through receiver really quick. 2 receivers that I'm definitely not playing this week for all the same reasons that we just talked about with the Browns. Amari Cooper is an extremely volatile wide receiver 3. Just digging into some of the fantasy points data in our data suite, it's not been good for Cooper in games not started with Deshaun Watson. Watson, say what you want, he played through injury. Cooper and Watson were starting to develop a pretty strong rapport. In the games that he's played with the backups, Cooper has caught 13 of 33 targets. He's seen 33 targets. He's caught 13. And in that one start, again, it was one start, small sample size, really good defense against Baltimore. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson was charted as off target on 32% of his throws. Just 57% of his passes in totality were catchable. To me, man, Cooper is a really, really shaky wide receiver 3. This is a spot, obviously, Steelers secondary is one we've been targeting. Cooper's playing great. He looks like the same player he's been for his entire career. All of that being said, Cooper's a really, really boom or bust play this week. One play that doesn't have a whole lot of boom and is most likely to bust, Jacoby Myers. He is just completely fallen out of this offense when Jimmy Garoppolo is not under center. Myers was really starting to trend up, showed strong rapport with Jimmy Garoppolo and throws over the middle. That is just completely evaporated with Aiden O'Connell. O'Connell is just not throwing over the middle nearly as much as Garoppolo did to Myers. And last 3 games with O'Connell, Myers has just 2 catches in every single game. He's not topped 40 yards yet. And overall, his target share has dipped from 26% with Garoppolo all the way down to 12% with O'Connell. Right now, he's like a back-end wide receiver 4. I don't think he should come close to coming into lineups this week. Devontae Adams, the only good news is like he's being funneled the ball, but it's a rookie quarterback. Aiden O'Connell still has a lot to develop. His offense still has a lot to develop. So, really, it's Adams, and then that's kind of it for this Raiders offense. Unfortunately, for the rest of the season, Rams offense, though, trending up, baby. Matthew Stafford, full practice. He has always been one to play through injury. Stafford, and he's played through back injuries. He's played through a thumb injury before. I think he's played through 2 thumb injuries. This will not be his first time. At times, Stafford has not played well through injury, but he's always going to play if he can. And while I'm not expecting Stafford to be like 100%, gripping the ball with an injured thumb can always be tricky. I think you've got to play Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua this week. If those 3 games that they played together, Nacua actually led the team in targets at 33% target share according to FantasyPoints data. Cooper Kupp was right behind him though, 30%. This offense is just incredibly concentrated. Just think about that. 63% of the targets, nearly 2/3 of the targets are going to go to these 2 guys in the back half of the year. Again, Stafford's injury is a concern. This matchup is a concern too. Reek Woolen and Devon Witherspoon have been playing incredible now that they're fully healthy together. I still think the volume and talent with Kupp and Nacua alone is enough to play them as like high-end wide receiver 2s this week. I'm shocked at some of the industry projections for Nacua in particular. I think you could make a case for Kupp over Diggs. Diggs is a really tough matchup against the Jets. He can play just like Cooper Kupp. He can get off against any good defense. Nakua's ranking, though, does not make any sense. I would for sure play Nacua over DeAndre Hopkins. Will Levis struggled under pressure last week. I think the Titans will bounce back, but I would play Nacua over Hopkins. I'd play him over DK Metcalf, who's been up and down this season. I'd play him over Adam Thielen. I'd play him over even Tank Dell, who's been piping hot, with CJ Stroud. Nico Collins is back. I think we've been right by being high on Nacua all season, and I'm just going to keep riding the train now that, Stafford's back in full practice. If we had any sort of like concerns that Stafford was like really, really limited, then I would probably shy away from this. But I think there's reason to be bullish on the Rams. There's reason to be bullish on Stafford and these receivers coming out of the bye. And I feel pretty confident putting, Kupp and Nakua back into lineups this coming week. All right, before we get out of here, I want to talk Trey McBride. It's Trey McBride week. Again, every week is Trey McBride week. It is unbelievable the amount of volume this guy's getting. And not only is he great, like he's second in yards per route run among tight ends only to Travis Kelce, according to Fantasy Points data. He has a chance to make a real run here in the back half of this season. The volume is insane. Last 3 weeks, he's seen 46, 29%, and 35% of the first 3 targets. That's bananas. That's like Garrett Wilson, high-end wide receiver 1 levels of first read target share. That is what Trey McBride is getting. This Cardinals offense is built around tight ends. We've been saying it all year. Only the Chiefs are targeting their tight ends more often, and that's because they have Travis Kelce and some Noah Gray. They kind of get a couple of their tight ends involved. Same kind of offense, very tight end friendly. Kyler Murray there's always been a bad narrative out there that he can't throw over the middle because he's short. No, Kyler Murray can throw over the middle because he's got great arm strength and he's got great anticipation. He is shorter. Yeah, he gets a lot of batted balls down, but last week should have silenced all of that. McBride is a really, really strong play. I was going through rankings for my article. I think this week there's a clear top 5. We've got Kelce, Andrews, Hawkinson. That's the clear top 3. I think Kincaid and Laporta are really, really close, and I think McBride has already made a case to be close too. You could make a case for McBride as high as tight end 4, but no lower than like tight end 6 this week. If you do need one streamer, I do like Luke Musgrave against the Chargers. We're just, again, chasing production against the Chargers' dreadful defense. Brandon Staley, what would you say that you do? Still waiting to figure that one out, buddy. Chargers are just giving up loads and loads of production to tight ends. Musgrave, he's only seen 5 or more targets in 2 of 9 games. It's not like a high volume play, but Chargers are giving up 68 yards per game to tight ends. They give up a lot of explosive plays. So this is a really tough week for streamers. I think he and Tyler Conklin are like the only 2 guys that I see that are like widely available that you could pick up and stream this week. Conklin just showed decent rapport with Zach Wilson, and he's able to get open underneath against zone. He's kind of emerged as the Jets' clear number 2 option besides Garrett Wilson. So if you do need a desperation streamer, I like Conklin. Then Luke Musgrave would be my number 1. Guys, great video. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you could, please, as always, subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button below. It really does help. We really do appreciate it. Good luck in week 11. I'll see you guys next week for week 12. Thanksgiving week, baby. Good luck.